I made my father's business thrive. He gave it to my step-siblings. Now he's watching his legacy die. Let's look at the numbers. When I started at Sterling Logistics 10 years ago, the operating margin was 4%. The fleet was aging. The drivers were stealing diesel because nobody tracked the mileage. My father, Robert, didn't care. He was the CEO. He liked the title. He liked the country club membership. He hated the grit of the actual work. I fixed it. I didn't do it for the money, though the money was good. I did it because my mother died when I was 12. After the funeral, the house went quiet. Robert stopped looking at me. He looked through me. The only time he paid attention was when I fixed something. A leaky faucet, the Wi-Fi, the business. So I became a fixer. I thought if I made his legacy bulletproof, he'd finally see me. I lived in that dispatch office for a decade. I fired the thieves. I installed GPS tracking. I negotiated fuel contracts down to the cent. Revenue hit $150 million. Margins were 18%. I had a corner office, a paid-off house, and enough investments that I could retire at 35 if I wanted to. But I kept working. I waited for Robert to hand me the keys. Instead, he remarried. Linda brought her 2 kids, Tiffany and Jared, my step-siblings. They weren't stupid. That would have been easier. They were dangerous. Tiffany was 30. A brand architect. She wasn't incompetent. She was just focused on the wrong things. She cared about how the trucks looked, not how they ran. She treated a logistics company like a fashion label. Jared was 28, a finance guy. He was obsessed with efficiency. He looked at a spreadsheet and saw cost to cut, but he didn't understand that you can't starve a diesel engine and expect it to haul freight. They were polished. They were expensive. And they were hungry for money they hadn't earned. Monday morning, board meeting. The room was cold. I walked in with the Q3 report. I was ready to ask for the CEO spot. Robert was turning 65, but Tiffany and Jared were there. Tiffany was wearing sharp suit, typing on her iPad. Jared was reading a P&L sheet, highlighting rows in red ink. Robert sat at the head. He looked tired. "Sit down," he said. He slid a packet across the table. "The Sterling Unity Plan." "I'm restructuring," Robert said. He wouldn't look at me. "Jared is the new CFO. Tiffany is Chief Creative Officer. You will remain COO, but you report to the Family Council." "The Family Council?" I asked. "Me, Jared, and Tiffany," Robert said. "All strategic decisions require a majority vote." I looked at Jared. "You want to run finance?" "We're bleeding in overhead," Jared said, tapping the spreadsheet. "Your maintenance budget is bloated. We spend 20% more than industry average on preventative service. We can trim that." "It's not bloated," I said. "It's why our trucks don't break down." "It's inefficient," Jared countered. "It's dead capital." "And Tiffany," I said, "creative officer?" "We need to modernize, Mark," she said, not looking up from her screen. "The brand is stale. We're losing the optics war. We need a visual overhaul to compete for the younger contracts." "We haul auto parts," I said. "Ford doesn't care about our font. They care if the transmission gets there on Tuesday." "Everything is branding," she said dismissively. "Enough." Robert slammed his hand on the table. "They are family. You will work together. You will split the equity 3 ways. You run ops, but they control the budget and the image." I looked at him, the man I spent 20 years trying to impress. He was handing the engine to 2 people who wanted to strip it for parts. "No," I said. "Excuse me." Robert blinked. I declined. I stood up. I put my keycard on the table. "You walk out, you get nothing," Robert said, his face flushing red. "No severance. I won't buy out your shares. You leave with what's in your pocket." I looked at the company logo on the wall. "I don't need a payout," I said. "I have plenty." I walked out. I drove home. My wife, Elena, was in the garage. Elena is an industrial engineer. She was wearing safety goggles and a respirator mask, running a planer over a slab of walnut. The noise was deafening. ZZT. She saw me. She killed the power. You're home early, she said, wiping sawdust off her neck. I quit. She didn't look surprised. She just leaned against the workbench. Did he give it to them? Jared is CFO. Tiffany is creative. Dad wanted me to run operations, with one hand tied behind my back. Elena let out a short, dry laugh. Jared's going to get the maintenance budget. He already started. He called it dead capital. And Tiffany, she thinks we're losing the optics war. Elena shook her head. They're going to loot it. They have the contracts, I said. They have the fleet. They have the hardware, Elena corrected. They don't have the brain. You know every route. You know the client pain points. She walked over and touched my arm. We start our own, she said. I have a non-compete. 1 year. So, we wait. We have savings. We can burn cash for 2 years, if we have to, without changing our lifestyle. We build the infrastructure now. And when they screw up, and they will screw up, we'll be ready. We called it Vector Supply. We rented a warehouse on the edge of town. We didn't rush. We were methodical. Because of the non-compete, we couldn't pitch clients or haul freight. Not yet. So we spent the first 12 months building the back end, the routing algorithms, the fuel optimization tables. I wrote code. Elena designed the warehouse flow. We bought a small fleet of Volvos coming off lease and parked them. We didn't run them. We just maintained them. At night, we went to the wood shop we set up in the corner of the warehouse. It was our way of decompressing. Woodworking is honest. If you cut it short, you can't spin it. You can't rebrand a bad joint. Elena was working on a mahogany desk. Precision work. Hand me the chisel, she said. The sound of steel slicing through wood was satisfying. SHHHK. I checked the Sterling financials, she said. They filed their quarterly. Since they hold public debt, it's online. And revenue is flat. Expenses are up. Tiffany's spending a fortune. Let them spend, I said. The rest takes time. Here's the thing about loyalty. You can't buy it, and you can't fake it. I spent 10 years in the trenches with the drivers, the mechanics, and the warehouse managers. I knew their kids' names. I went to their weddings. When I left, I didn't have to hack the servers. I didn't have to plant bugs. I just had to answer my phone. The texts started coming in a month later. From Tony, lead mechanic. You won't believe this. Jared just fired the oil vendor. Switched to budget lube. Recycled sludge. I told him it would void the warranties. He told me to make it work. From Sarah, accounts payable, Tiffany just expensed a $15,000 consultation retreat to Cabo. For herself. Coded it as market research. I didn't solicit this info. I wasn't a spy. I was just the guy they trusted. They were venting to the only person who understood how the machine was supposed to work. While Tiffany spent $4 million on a rebrand, billboards, Silver Snake logos, a launch party in Miami. The rot was setting in. I read the financial reports on Edgar every quarter. Revenue stable for now. Operating costs up 12%, Tiffany spending. Maintenance costs down 20%, Jared's cuts. On paper, Jared looked like a genius. He was saving money. But I knew what those savings meant. It meant the engines were grinding metal on metal. The second year, the physics caught up with the accounting. The non-compete expired. Vector Supply went live. We didn't advertise. We just opened the doors. Meanwhile, at Sterling, the truck started breaking down. Turbos blowing. Transmission slipping. Because Jared had switched to the budget vendor, repairs took weeks, not days. My phone blew up. From Mike, senior driver stuck in Omaha. Turbo blew. Dispatch says the tow truck isn't authorized for 4 hours because Jared is reviewing vendor contracts. I'm quitting, Mark. This is a joke. Hang in there, Mike. I texted back. I'm hiring now. Bring your logbook. Sterling's on-time delivery rate dropped from 98% to 84%. Clients started complaining. Tiffany's solution was to send them Sterling gift boxes with branded hoodies. They don't want hoodies, I told Elena over dinner. They want their freight. Jared panicked. To keep the profit numbers up, he started squeezing harder. He delayed payments to the owner-operators. He stopped paying the safety bonuses. And then the greed kicked in. Sarah from accounting called me, crying. Jared gave himself a bonus, Mark. Performance incentive. He took $200,000. Meanwhile, I can't pay the tire vendor. I looked at the revenue report for Q2. Revenue was dipping. Cash reserves were critical. Let it burn, Sarah, I said gently. Just keep your resume updated. Part 7. The Shift, Year 3. Year 3 was the collapse. August. Heat wave. Sterling held the contract for Fresh Market. Jared had switched the engine coolant and the reefer units to a cheaper, diluted brand to save $15 per truck. He didn't understand that reefer engines run hotter than the main engine because they run stationary. 3 trailers full of frozen seafood were crossing Arizona. The temperature hit 110. The cheap coolant boiled over. The reefer engines overheated. The safety overrides kicked in and killed the compressors. The temperature inside the trailers began to climb. The sensors alerted dispatch. But Tiffany had fired the experienced dispatchers because they didn't fit the culture, and replaced them with cheaper, younger staff who didn't know the difference between a warning light and a critical failure. The fish rotted. The VP of Fresh Market called Sterling. He got a voicemail. He called me. Mark, he said, I heard you're back. I am. I have a situation, and I'm done with your family. Can you take the volume? I looked at Elena. She checked the board. We have capacity, I said. Good. Send the trucks. That was the breach. Fresh Market left. Then the auto parts suppliers left. They didn't leave because of bad luck. They left because Sterling had become unreliable. Vector Supply scaled up. We took the business, load by load. Part 8. The desperation. 3 years post-split. Sterling was drowning. The bank was foreclosing on the terminal. Robert came out of retirement. He finally looked at the books. He saw the consulting fees Jared paid himself. He saw Tiffany's travel expenses. He fired them both. But the cash was gone. My phone rang on a Tuesday night. I was in the garage with Elena. We were putting the final coat of polyurethane on a crib. I looked at the screen. Dad. I put it on speaker. Mark. His voice sounded like gravel. Weak. Robert. The bank, they're calling the loan. Tomorrow. I know. I saw the filing. Jared, he cooked the books. And Tiffany spent everything on nonsense. Mark, it's gone. The legacy. You destroyed the legacy, Robert. You chose the wrong people. I can fix this, he said. Desperation crept in. Come back. I'll give you majority control. You take it. You fire everyone. Just save the name. I looked around my garage. The smell of clean sawdust. The new crib drying under the lights. Elena looked up, her face smudged with dirt, calm and steady. Why would I want Sterling? I asked. The trucks are ruined. The brand is toxic. And the liabilities are massive. Because it's your father's company. Robert shouted. Because you built it. I built the systems, I said. You sold them out. Mark, please. I'm asking you as your father. I have nothing left. I felt nothing. No anger. Just a cold realization. You don't need a son, Robert, I said. You need a bailout. And that's a bad investment. You're enjoying this, he whispered. No, I said. I'm just working. Something your kids never did. I hung up. The silence in the garage was heavy. Elena capped a varnish can. He sounded bad, she said. He sounded broke. Did you mean it? Every word. Sterling Logistics filed for liquidation 3 months later. The auction was held in November. Vector Supply sent a proxy bidder. We bought the terminal. We bought the trailers. We bought the dispatch server I built 10 years ago. We got it for pennies on the dollar. I drove by the old yard a week later. Crews were out there. They were scraping the giant Silver Snake logo off the main sign. The silver vinyl peeled away, revealing the faded paint underneath. I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel sad. I just felt efficient. I drove home. Elena was in the kitchen. She was wearing my oversized flannel shirt, eating pickles out of the jar. Did you see the sign? She asked. Yeah, it's down. Good. That logo was hideous. She handed me the jar. Open this. My hands are slippery. I popped the lid. We need to finish the nursery, she said. The crib needs one more coat. I'll do it tonight. Measure twice, she warned. Cut once, I replied. We went to the garage. The work was waiting, and I didn't need anyone's approval to do it.